I'm going to show you the Uber driver requirements and Lyft driver requirements for Baltimore, Maryland. I'm going to start with the Uber requirements and then get into the Lyft requirements. Some similarities, but some differences as well between the two apps. One thing I want to say right in the beginning of this video, I've done a bunch of these requirement videos for a bunch of different cities. Some are very simple and easy. Other ones are a bit more tricky and complicated. Baltimore is one of those cities. It's a bit odd. I'm just going to say that. But anyway, jumping into this, as you can see already, what is required to drive for Uber in terms of the driver requirements? You have to be 21 years of age or older. I will say you can be younger to drive for Uber Eats. So if you're looking for, like, say, like a gig economy type job or a flexible job or whatever, Uber Eats might be a better bet, like say if you're in college, for example. In terms of what you need, driver's license, proof of work eligibility, social security number, proof of vehicle registration, and insurance. I am going to talk about the vehicle requirements in a second, which can get tricky, like I said. And then background check. Now, one thing I want to say about the background check, this is true for both Uber and Lyft, is this is both a criminal background check, as we typically think of it, but they also do a vehicle or driving background check. So let's say if you have speeding tickets and stuff like that, that will pop up. And let's say if you have too many or whatever, it does depend maybe on the person reviewing it. It might flag the system, so keep that in mind. If you, let's say, have 4 or 5 speeding tickets, even if it's not on your criminal background check and it doesn't show up, it will show up on your driving background check, so keep that in mind. Now let's get into the vehicle requirements. First off, 12-year-old vehicle or newer. It's kind of weird. So each city and state is different when it comes to these requirements, which is why I do these videos. What's weird is here in LA, it's 16-year-old vehicle or newer. So for example, let's say you have a car, I'm making this up, that's 15 years old. You can drive here in Los Angeles. But if you move to Baltimore, you cannot drive with that same exact vehicle. So keep in mind, 12-year-old vehicle or newer, 4-door vehicle, good condition with no cosmetic damage, no commercial branding, and pass a vehicle inspection. Pretty standard, I'd say, when it comes to just most cities, although the 12-year-old vehicle or newer, kind of annoying, right? With the vehicle inspection, I've done some videos about this. Basically, you have to get your car inspected once a year. Kind of makes sense, you know, and so you kind of have to bring it to a shop. Typically, you have like an Uber form to fill out. You have to send it to Uber to prove your car has been inspected. And one quick little pro tip I'll say is you can take that same inspection and give it to Lyft. So you can kind of go back and forth where, let's say if you get inspected through Uber, you could also submit that same inspection for Lyft and vice versa. In terms of registration, it accepts both official and temporary registration documents. Of course, your car needs to be insured as well. I do suggest getting rideshare insurance. I've done some videos about this. You know, insurance companies will use any excuse they can to not cover you. One of them being that you did not tell them that you're not driving for Lyft and Uber. I highly suggest get rideshare insurance. It's going to be anywhere between $6 and $30 extra a month. Well worth it. And yes, Uber and Lyft does have their own kind of insurance coverage policies, but it gets very, very tricky, right? Now going down to vehicle options, you can see for Uber Eats, I will say the model year must be 20 years old or newer. So your car can be a lot older if, like, say, you want to drive for Uber Eats, 2-door vehicle. So, like, say if you have a 2-door vehicle and not, like, say, a 4-door vehicle, you can do that. And in addition, I will say you could also do Uber Eats on a motorized scooter, on a bicycle even. So I just want to say that as a quick side note. Obviously, I know this video is about driving for Uber and Lyft specifically, but I just want to mention that. Now going down here. When it comes to accepted documents, you can see here the only valid Virginia State inspection certificate is from the Virginia State Police. What's weird, I've never lived in this area, to be honest, right? I'm from Massachusetts. I live in California now. Apparently, you can cross over between Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. So if, like, so you're moving around that area, it seems like you can accept documents from different places. This can get very technical. I don't think I've ever seen this on any requirement video. In addition, the Certified Maryland Vehicle Inspection Report is one of 2 valid forms of proof of inspection in the state. The other is Maryland State Police Inspection Certificate. Want to say that, and then go on here, accepted documents. The only accepted Pennsylvania State Inspection Certificate is the Penn Dot sticker. So it seems like those cross over. So maybe if you move from Pennsylvania to Baltimore, you're able to kind of transfer that over from the Penn Dot sticker inspection. Right, Uber Decal as well. This is not necessarily a requirement per se, but it kind of is. You know, as you can see, Under local regulations for Maryland, all drivers must display an Uber decal on their vehicle while online. So it's not a requirement to quote unquote sign up, but it's something you do have to do. You could probably buy one online. Sometimes you can get one for free from Uber and stuff like that. I do suggest getting both Uber and Lyft. I mean, if you have Uber on it and you're driving for Lyft, I feel like people kind of assume you're probably doing both. I do suggest, just in case, have Uber and Lyft on your windshield, right? And you can do right here, you can request one to be mailed to you. In terms of compliance, there are a few things you do have to do, like I said. One, all vehicles operating the Uber platform need a state vehicle inspection on file. You must have a paper Virginia, Maryland, or Pennsylvania state inspection certificate to demonstrate completion of a valid vehicle inspection. The document is required for all vehicles, even if new. So you have to do this. Just something to keep in mind, it is interesting. I've never seen this for any other area. We can have a multi-state type situation here. But again, like say you move from Virginia to Baltimore or Pennsylvania to Baltimore, you can use that. T&O license, the Maryland Public Service Commission, this is big, requires that all transportation network company drivers apply for a temporary transportation network operator or T&O license in order to conduct trips in Maryland. So you have to do this. You may conduct trips while your application is pending. So at least you don't have to sign up and you're just sitting there like waiting for like a day or weeks or however long it might take, right? You can start driving while your application is pending, but you do have to do this. Some cities do require this, like places like Portland, Oregon, and New York, for example, come to mind. You have to have kind of like an extra license or an extra certificate or something on top of your normal driver's license. Last few things here, they kind of just have proof of insurance. Don't trip a street hail. These are called like ghost rides or dark rides where you just pick somebody up on the street and you say like, hey, give me $20. This is kind of like Uber and Lyft one-on-one. Don't do that. This is what's interesting as well, I will say. For people who drive in Maryland, you probably know this. In case you just moved to, let's say, Baltimore, you must carry proof of insurance, of your personal insurance with you at all times. So you do have to show this, right? What's interesting is in Colorado, they also have this. If you get pulled over, it's license, registration, and proof of insurance. In Massachusetts, they don't allow that. So I remember when I was traveling in Colorado and the guy asked for that, I'm like, wait, what do you mean you need my proof of insurance? The guy goes, license, registration, proof of insurance. Some states, which is interesting, require you to show a proof of insurance. Other states, like Massachusetts, do not. Kind of weird. Now let's get into the driver requirements for Lyft. And again, some of these do kind of carry over, right? I'm going to start with the driver requirements and then go back up to the vehicle requirements. You need a driver's license, 25 years or older. This is one big difference between Uber and Lyft. Uber is typically 21 years or older. Lyft is 25. Pass a driver screening, right? Like I said, driving history and criminal background check, similar to Uber. Of course, you need a smartphone to do the Lyft app. In addition, I will say as a little subsect, if, like, say you don't have a smartphone and you have an iPad, which I feel like would be kind of interesting, or you just prefer the iPad, you can have an iPad if, like, say you have 3G or whatever. Sometimes they do allow that, so I will say that. And like I said, you do need a T&O license right here, right? And like I said, your ability to perform rides in Maryland may be impacted if you do not have a Real ID driver's license. Real ID came out years ago. This is the first time I've seen this on any driver requirement. It came out years ago as like a better just ID or whatever. I don't know. From the DMV. If you have a newer ID or like you renewed your ID, you probably are under the Real ID type clause. But that's something I would look into. And in addition to drivers with express drive vehicles, which means you can rent one through Uber or Lyft, but in this case, we're talking about Lyft. Drivers with express drive vehicles must have a valid non-temporary DC, MD, or VA driver's license. So DC is also included, but not Pennsylvania. Actually, not Pennsylvania. Kind of weird. Temporary licenses will not be accepted. Some places do accept that, right? So it's very interesting how, again, city to city, state to state, things are a bit different. And then lastly, going on here for the document requirements, proof of vehicle insurance, driver photo, proof of Virginia or Maryland vehicle inspection certificate. So it's weird that it seems like Uber accepts Pennsylvania, but Lyft does not. I mean, at the end of the day, if you are driving in Baltimore and you live there, you might as well just have everything be under Maryland, and I'm assuming you do, but it is interesting how they do have this being like, hey, if you have a Virginia vehicle inspection, that's okay. But it seems like if you're in Pennsylvania, you can drive for Uber with that, but not Lyft. kind of weird. Again, I think this may be one of those odd places to drive with like the unique clauses under their requirements. And then going back up here in terms of vehicle, 2012 or newer, these are the exact time of this vehicle. Pretty standard, 4 doors, 5 to 8 seats. Not on the list of ineligible some compact vehicles. Not a taxi or stretch limousine. Not titled salvage, not repairable, rebuilt, or any other equivalent classification. Or, like I said, at the end of the day, if you don't have a car or your car does not qualify, you can rent one through Lyft's Express Drive. Now, there's a couple things I do want to say before I finish off this video. One, how much can you expect to make driving for Lyft and Uber? I'd say the average, in general, I'm talking countrywide now, my initial one-shot off answer is about 20 to 25 an hour. That's what I typically say for most places. When I did some research about Baltimore, and remember, this fluctuates a lot. There's a lot of factors that determine this. I saw an average around 18-ish an hour. So through my research, and again, I was reading some articles and everything. I've never been to Baltimore, by the way. I've never interviewed drivers there. So I do want to say, this is more me reading the articles and looking on stuff online. 18-ish an hour is what I found. So it seems like, unfortunately, one, Baltimore tends to seem like it pays a little bit less than average when it comes to how much you can make driving for Lyft and Uber. However, I will say there are ways to boost your income. I do have a video listed below in the description talking about different ways to make more money as a new driver signing up. Another thing I'm going to talk about is, two, do you think it's worth it? Is it worth it to drive for Lyft and Uber? I have a video listed below in the description. I know I'm mentioning a bunch of videos, but to go more in depth about these different points, I do have a video talking about should you drive for Lyft and Uber. It's pretty lengthy, but I really went in depth about the technicalities, insurance, stuff you should know about taxes or expenses, how much you could potentially make, in terms of not just your average hourly rate, but things like bonuses. There's a lot to that video, so I just watching it. My overall answer is test it out. You never know. Maybe you start driving in Baltimore and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm making close to 25 an hour. I make more than all these sites said that I can make. Or maybe you start driving, you're like, oh, you know what? All these different analytics are right. I'm only making 16 to 18 an hour, for example. It's not worth it at all. Maybe you should pursue another job. The third thing I want to say lastly, and I say this in every video and I have to stress it, sign up with both Uber and Lyft. I know a lot of people have this certain thing when they're like, hey, well, you know what? I'm just going to do Uber or I'm just going to do Lyft. Or I don't like Lyft, I like Uber, and vice versa. Sign up with both. Remember, there's no fee to sign up. You can sign up for free, of course, like I said. There's no quota. It's not like Lyft says, hey, you need to do 5 rides a month or we deactivate your account. Nope, there's no quota for either. And the reason why I suggest this is you never know. Maybe given your schedule, your situation in Baltimore, you make way more money on the weekends with Lyft, and you make more money with Lyft on the weekends than Uber, right? Or maybe you drive for Uber during the week, and during the week, Uber pays more than Lyft. Again, I'm just making stuff up. And in addition, both apps have different bonuses and incentives that randomly roll out. They might contact you, or Lyft might say, hey, you know what? For this weekend, we're going to give you 200 extra bucks if you do 20 rides. I'm just making something up, right? So these apps will give you different bonuses and incentives, which is why I suggest sign up with both, because you never know which one's going to give you more money.